Hi, I'm Kathy Macri. We are in the gardens at Berwick Royal Oak in Victoria, BC, and I'm here with Jill Phipps from Home Again Seniors Transition Services. Now, Jill, what on earth are Seniors Transition Services, and who are you? Tell us a bit about you.
So I'm Jill, and we are a company that was formed to move seniors. And so we assist people when they're downsizing. Sometimes people have been living in their family home for 60 years, and we assist them through the process of making a change in their living situation. So whether they're moving to Berwick or to a condo or something smaller, we help them start to finish with the process.
What does a typical process look like when you're asked for assistance?
So typically we break our moves into 3 phases. So helping them get ready to move, the actual move itself, and then dealing with everything that's left over at the end. So when we're assisting someone to get ready for a move, we're kind of like the wedding planner, and we always tell people they don't have to get married. But we would make the arrangements with you, the building they're going into. We book the mover. We assist them to transfer their TV and their phone and all those little bits of things that people have to do when they're moving that they may not have had to do in a long time, but they're the kinds of things that, people lay awake worrying about at 2 a.m. What was I supposed to do about this? We also help with downsizing, so sorting from one end of the house to the other, what's going, what's staying, what things are going to their family, what things need to be shipped somewhere, and just sort of shepherding them through that process. And then also things like space planning and that as well. So when you're moving into a smaller space, sometimes it can be difficult to determine what furniture pieces will fit and what will be functional. And so I use a computer program to measure the furniture that they would like to take, measure the space they're going into, and then I plot it to scale using a floor planning program. So that's our roadmap to being able to, we don't want to get to Berwick and then figure out that the couch is too big for a certain wall, so that it eliminates some of those problems. So phase 1 is about getting ready to move. Phase 2 is our actual move. That's just a 2-day process. It's a 1-day pack up. It's designed so that they can stay home that night. So they do kind of camp out. We pack them to about 85%, but we leave their bed set up and their TV and their phone and some things in the kitchen. And we get them to set aside the equivalent of an overnight bag. So, their nightgown and the things that they're going to need for the next day. But we get them mostly packed up, and then on the move day, we come first thing in the morning with the movers, and we do a walkthrough of their house with the mover. They start loading furniture, and then we do the last minute packing, their fridge contents, their bedding, whatever we've left out for them the night before. It all comes to Berwick, and we fully unpack them that day. So by the end of that move day, their bed is made, their clock radio is set, their electronics are up and working, everything is properly put away, all the materials are gone, and they just come home and they're home again. That's where the company name comes from.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so this is why people rave about you so much.
Oh,
I've
that's
actually
nice.
downsized from a 3-level townhouse with 3 bathrooms and a garage to less than 600 square feet. And the list of things to do was tragically endless. It was so much work.
Yes.
But
yeah.
you make it sound so simple. Is it really that simple when you do it?
Well, I think it's maybe simple now. We've always joked with our clients that we've refined our skills on our earlier clients. So we've moved hundreds and hundreds of people now. And so as we've gone along, we've developed systems for making sure that things happen every client that we have is different, but if you look at 10 of our moves, you will see the same patterns in even though every situation is a little bit different. We do this first, then we do this, we check this, with the idea that at the end, our client gets to their new home with minimal fuss is the idea.
And what makes for a really successful transition?
So a successful transition, I would say, is well planned. So you're not rushed. We certainly work in situations where someone will call and say, I'm moving next Thursday, can you help? We prefer not to work in we try and avoid those situations if we can. We need about 3 weeks to a month to start working with someone so that we can make all the bookings, get everything organized, have some downsizing appointments. And if we space it out, 3 weeks is kind of that sweet spot where it's not, if it's longer than that, people feel like it's taking too long and they feel like they're in that move process for too long. If it's too short, they can feel a bit rushed and it can be a bit tiring. But if we can plan it for 3 to 4 weeks, and if our client is in charge, that's one of the really important things. So it's much better when our client is able to visit Berwick, look at the suite that they're going into, make the choices themselves.
And then you just aid them along.
And then we just, support them through the process. The opposite can happen sometimes if people wait too long to move. So if they wait until there's a medical event or something that's forcing them into a different living situation, it's a less satisfying process, because sometimes what happens is the daughter comes in from Courtney, tours the buildings, picks the place for their mom, decides what's going to go, and then mom, just ends up going from hospital or something. So it's always better to be in charge of your own move, decide what you want, pick the place, look at the suites yourself, and then give yourself lots of time to make the change.
That's really great advice. And what's the hardest thing about downsizing? Like, what do people really struggle with?
I think probably people struggle with getting started in downsizing. Downsizing is one of those things that once you get going on it, especially like when we work with people, we start with things that are not emotional. So there's lots of things that you have in your house that are just there because you haven't had a reason to get rid of it. That's a good place to start. Get rid of those things. There are things that are hard to get rid of when you're downsizing. If you're going into a smaller space, there may be some furniture pieces that don't fit well, and it's hard to come to terms with giving those up. But if you start with things that are not emotional and just stuff that you have to get rid of, and people feel a great sense of accomplishment when they're downsizing. So they like to be able to tell their friends how many things they've gotten rid of. And,
Yes.
And once you get going, you realize that it's quite a satisfying process. So for most of our clients, it's just getting going.
And what about all of that stuff? We all have so much stuff, and people who are moving to Berwick, they sometimes have been living in their house for 20, 30, even 40 years.
Yes.
What do they do with all that stuff?
So there are a lot of different options for getting rid of stuff. So first of all, if you work with a company like ours, what we do is we actually just focus on what you want. So we like to get our clients, and the things they want, we kind of extract them from their house and move them to Berwick and get them settled. And then we deal with everything that's left behind. And so when they're working with us, we have places to sell things. We have auction options. We have private buyers of things. There are lots of different charities that you can make donations to. So there are basic ones that everybody knows about, like Salvation Army, or you can get creative. One of the things that we do is we donate things like sewing supplies, music instruments to schools, because the programs are not as well funded as they've been in the past. So there are lots of ways to deal with the things that you leave behind. The thing that we always tell people about, though, is you may not see the value. You have a piece of furniture that you've spent a lot of money on, and someone in the auction business once told me, just because it's old doesn't mean it's valuable. So it is harder now to extract value from some of the things that people are downsizing. The values, there's a lot of people in Victoria that are casting off entire households of things. And, so it can be hard to get that money back. The auction market and that is not what it used to be.
Yes, I imagine so. Now, what's one thing that you have learned helping people through this process of downsizing and moving and transitioning?
Probably the one thing is that I've observed is that the time leading up to the move, like that couple of weeks before the move, is the hardest time for people. They've made the decision to move. they're excited about where they're going to, so they've picked their suite and they're excited about it. But if they've been living in their current home for many years, they know what they have there, they kind of are excited about where they're going to, but I always tell people it's kind of like the train is leaving the station. So you've got one foot on the platform and one foot on the train, and there's always this sense in almost every client right in that maybe 2 weeks before the move, where it's just this panic that happens, where they start second guessing the decision that they've made. And we always tell people you just kind of have to, everybody goes through it, and you just kind of have to grit your teeth and see yourself through that. And it's really just the fear of the unknown. And people start thinking about all the things, oh, what if I don't like it? What if this happens? But the reality is that there's lots of really exciting things about living in a senior's residence. There's lots of lovely services, and it's really the fear of the unknown. It's just, what if I don't? We always tell people, nobody ever moves home. Like literally in hundreds of moves that we've done, there has been, I think, 3 of our clients. Lots of our clients will keep their current home, and they'll say, I'm just going to keep it for a few months in case I don't like it so I can move back. But nobody actually ever moves back. Once they get here and they get the lay of the land, they love it and they don't look back.
Well, we know that change is always scary.
Yes.
And moving is definitely one of the biggest stressors in
exactly.
life. So having someone like you to help, now I completely understand why everybody raves about you, Jill, because you make things obviously a lot easier.
We try, yes.
So to close, give us your best tips for downsizing.
Okay, so probably my best tip is that you should always be downsizing. So I downsize all the time, almost every day. I'm on the Big Brother's call list, so once a month they call me and say, do you have anything to donate? I always say yes, whether I do or I don't. And then I go around the house and I get rid of things that I don't need. So if you're always in that continuous process of downsizing, it is much easier when it comes to a move that you're not starting from a house that you've never gotten rid of anything from. So that would be one thing. People generally save more than they need. So there is some ingrained, beliefs that people have been brought up about saving things just in case. But we joke with our clients, if you have BC Tel bills from 1987, it's okay to let those go. So there's lots of things that people have that they just have just in case. So it's okay to let those things go. And probably my last tip is just, if you're downsizing on your own, not working with someone, and you're just trying to figure out how to go about doing it, if you think in categories rather than rooms. So what happens when somebody's downsizing in a room is they go into their spare room and they take out all the things that they don't want, and then they end up with 5 piles of things. This is for my sister, this is for the museum, this is for, and then those piles don't actually go anywhere. So if you think in categories, it gives you a much better sense of what you have. So I always use the example of magazines. This week I'm going to deal with magazines. You go from one end of your house to the other, you pull out all of your magazines. Do it the day before recycle day so that you can easily get rid of them in the end, and just go through them all. When you gather them all together like that, you really see the scope of what you have. You take out the 5 that you want to keep for recipes or whatever, and the rest go to recycle, and then that category is done.
That is a great tip. Fantastic. So tell us, what's your website, Jill?
So we are www.seniorshomeagain.ca. So our company is called Home Again Seniors Transition Services, but our website is seniorshomeagain.ca.
That's great. Thank you very much, Jill Phipps, for joining us on a great talk about downsizing and preparing for your move. It's Kathy Macri signing off from Berwick Royal Oak.